I'm here to give a very special shout out to an awesome new small business, WrestleCrate. WrestleCrate is a monthly subscription service where they send out mystery boxes every single month full of cool wrestling themed items. Now these items in the box include things like pop vinyls, fat heads, wrestling action figures, trading cards, and t-shirts, and all kinds of cool, fun wrestling related items. Subscription service starts at less than $15 a month. So you can best believe that every wrestling crate you get will be well worth more. WrestleCrate was actually started by a longtime fan of mine, Ed Allen, along with his 7-year-old son, Aiden. Let me tell you how big of a fan Ed was. He actually worked security for myself and Jeff at the Pillman Anniversary Show in 2001. That shows how big of a wrestling fan he is. And a wrestling fan like Ed knows what wrestling fans love, what they demand, and that's what you'll get every single month. So right now, go to WrestleCrate.com. The first launch starts in April. Sign up at WrestleCrate and get your WrestleCrate coming to you right now today. Follow it on Twitter at WrestleCrates and go to Facebook. Find it at WrestleCrate. Like it just for me. WrestleCrate.com.
All right, we're back here at C2E2, and I am joined right now by Ed Allen, the proprietor of WrestleCrate.com. Now, WrestleCrate is a very interesting endeavor. It's something fun for wrestling fans. Tell me all about it, Ed.
It's a monthly subscription service. Starts at $15 a month. You get awesome things like T-shirts, autographs, action figures, everything a wrestling fan wants.
Now, do you have any one item here, Ed, that you are like, as a fan, like, man, I love the fact that this is a part of this crate?
Kenny Omega autograph. Look at that.
Kenny Omega?
Yes. Our own artist did the art. Sent them to Kenny. Kenny signed them for us. Just a beautiful piece.
Man, and he is going to be a real player here in years to come. I mean, this guy screams like Brian Pillman to me, right?
Absolutely. He's great. He's awesome. Such a showman. Incredible.
Awesome, yes. And, of course, Ed, if fans sign up for this, they get it every month, right? Sit right to the door. And it's always a bit of a mystery, too. Isn't that kind of fun?
Yes. Never know what you're going to get.
Wonderful. Awesome. Well, here we are at C2E2 for WrestleZone TV. I'm Nick Hausman. We'll be back later.
My name's Ed Allen. I'm the founder of WrestleCrate, which became the biggest pro wrestling subscription service in the world. Founded it in 2013 and caught lightning in a bottle, but I dropped the bottle. I grew up in Covington, Kentucky, the river town right outside of Cincinnati. Pretty much inner city my whole life. Lived with both parents till I was about 12, then my parents divorced. I still had a good relationship with my father growing up, but you know, not having him there definitely had a lot of effect on my life and things that happened growing up. You know, my mom, she was afraid to be hard on me, so she let me kind of do what I wanted. But, you know, it's still a loving home. She gave me everything I wanted. But I think I just kind of took, you know, advantage of that and got into some things I shouldn't have. Started off messing around with marijuana when I was 14 years old and drinking. And, you know, everything kind of progressed from there, you know, into adulthood. You know, a lot of people kind of ask, you know, what happened? What happened to you? Where did the addiction come from? Or what happened in your life to start the path I went on? And I don't talk about this a lot, or you know, a lot of people don't notice about me, but I was molested by a scout leader when I was 11 years old, and it's really affected me a lot through my life. Back then, you know, my family really didn't talk about it too much. The guy was tried and convicted and went to jail for a really long time. He got out and did it again, and now, from what I understand, he's serving a life sentence. Which is a good thing, and he can't hurt anybody else. But you know, I was 11 years old, and he was giving me and some other kids alcohol and marijuana, and showing us pornography, and you know, we were on a camping trip, and that's when the sexual abuse took place, and I think I just buried that and used drugs to cover it up. And you know, I think I could finally talk about it and be open about it, and even though it's still super tough to talk about and still bothers me a lot to this day, but I think with coming clean, it kind of helped me come clean with that too, because I just felt like I didn't want a lot of people to know about that, or it was taboo, or something I did wrong, or something like that. And I finally realized it was nothing I did. It was a monster that did it, and it affected me in this way. So I feel good being able to talk about that and be open about that. But I think that's kind of where everything started, and me burying what happened, and you know, and using drugs to cover it up and stuff. I mean, it's been really tough on me, you know, throughout my whole adult life.
I am Grace Allen. I am Ed's older sister.
I'm Casey Weaver, and I am Ed's baby sister. Growing up with Ed, Edward and I were very close, especially where you're a decent amount younger. Well, I am a decent amount younger than my oldest siblings. So Ron, our oldest brother, and Grace were kind of, they moved out because they were older, and Ed and I were together. When my mom and dad got a divorce, it was me, my brother, Ed, and my mom. So they like to say we're the wild children, which is kind of factual. But Ed and I shared a really special bond because of that. I don't know. You can't help but smile when he's around.
Yeah.
And sometimes want to choke him, but he really is a really good guy.
Yeah. Creative, definitely has a creative mindset. Just thinks differently, thinks in ways that I don't. I'm very logical, and everything it has to be laid out, but he just goes above and beyond and thinks of things that us typical people would not think of. And he's always been like that, even as a little kid. His creativity, he's artistic. He's just got that very creative side to him, which is actually, I would say, different than the other three of us.
Yeah.
Probably more like our mom,
Yeah.
who was also very creative and artsy.
We grew up in Covington, and we were very just social, and our mom is very like a social butterfly, like she knew no stranger. And Edward is very much like our mother. He'll talk to anybody, and he'll find a way to connect with anybody, and that's how my mom was too. Like, we would go to the store and we'd be in a random aisle, and she would start talking, and lo and behold, now they're friends. And that's kind of Ed. Like,
He has a vast array of knowledge, like all over the spectrum. He can relate to anyone, and I think that's where all of his relationships and friendships come from his ability to network endlessly with anyone, you know, from basically in the hood where we grew up to, you know, the other end with his business. Just always very articulate, just brilliant. So I think that's where a lot of his abilities come from.
I was introduced to wrestling when I was probably about 10 years old. I remember going to my first wrestling matches at the Cincinnati Gardens in Cincinnati, Ohio. And my uncle took me with me and my cousin, and you know, they were huge wrestling fans. And I remember going there, and it was just amazing, you know, the crowd, the reactions, you know, the heels, the faces, the heels doing their job, making everybody hate them, and the faces coming out to save the day. I mean, it was just great. And, you know, at that point, it just had my attention. And then when we were leaving, they had a spot where the wrestlers left or walked out, and I remember standing there trying to get autographs, and King Kong Bundy walked by, and, you know, he was just larger than life, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy. And I was like scared of him, just looking up at him at the size of him, and just knowing he was a bad guy, and just, you know, going to ask him for an autograph, but I was too scared to, and he just had this scowl on his face when he looked at me, like, don't even ask me. And then that just kind of stuck with me. It was like probably my first memory of wrestling was with King Kong Bundy scared the crap out of me. From that point on, I started, you know, watching weekly, and, you know, going through all the eras of the WWE. It was great, you know, Mick Foley, Stone Cold, The Rock, you know, even further back than that, my first memories were with Coco Beware and Hulk Hogan, and Andre the Giant and all of them larger than life superstars. It was, it had my attention, from the first time I watched it, basically. I was bartending in about 1999 at a bar in Covington, Kentucky, and there's a guy that came there named Pat Black, and he was the commissioner of HWA, which was Heartland Wrestling Association, and a lot of wrestlers came out of there. It was before, the indies are how they are now. There were a lot smaller promotions and a lot more of them around the country. But Pat, he was a regular at the bar, and he'd always come in, and he let me know they were having a Brian Pillman Memorial Show, and asked me if I was interested in working it. So, being a wrestling fan, I was like, heck yeah, I want to work it. So, went up there, worked security for the Hardy Boys and Lita, their autograph booth, or picture booth, not autograph booth. Worked security for that, and being around all the wrestlers and being backstage, it was just the coolest thing ever. And then that was the first time I really got a glimpse of the behind the scenes of wrestling productions and backstage and things like that, and and that just grew my love for the sport even more. That was a great experience. There was so many people there, and Diamond Dallas Page and Just Incredible, and just so many legends of the sport. It was great. From that point on, the love just grew more. Watched weekly. Anytime shows would come to Cincinnati, me and my friends would go to every show that was in town, whether it was Raw or Monday Night Nitro back then, and we'd just go to every show. In 2005, I met my wife.
I'm Erica. I'm Ed's wife. We've been together for 14 years, married for 4. I kind of say that it's fate that brought us together. The person that I was with just happened to know the person that he was with, and they started talking, and it got us talking, and we just kind of hit it off from there. I was nervous that he wasn't going to call me back, but he called me the next day, and we went on our first date. We hung out a lot. We talked for hours and hours at a time, and we just kind of knew that we were each other's person. Shortly after that, very shortly, about a month after we were together, I found out that I was pregnant. And I was really, really nervous to tell him. I didn't know how he was gonna react. I didn't know if he was gonna leave. But everything turned out really, really good. He surprised me at work the next day, and he bought me this beautiful necklace and this beautiful handwritten card just telling me that everything was going to be okay, that he loved me more than anything, and that he was always going to take care of me and our child. So I knew that everything was just kind of falling into place, even though I didn't know that that was our plan. So shortly after that, I had to meet his family. He had to meet mine, and I had to meet his family pregnant. So I was extremely nervous, especially his mom. I didn't know how she was going to react. So he ended up tricking me, and he told me that we were going to Walmart for prenatal vitamins. And I was in sweatpants and a t-shirt, and we passed Walmart. And I said, "Where are we going?" And he said, "You're going to meet my mom." And I was mortified. I said, "I cannot meet your mother pregnant in sweatpants and a t-shirt." And he was like, "You can, and you're going to." And so we got to her house, and I introduced myself to her. She was probably one of the most amazing people I've ever met. She just took me in with open arms. She was so excited that I was pregnant, even though it was the first time that she was meeting me. And she just could not have been more happy and welcoming, and it was just a great experience. Shortly after meeting her, we got to find out what we were having. We found out that we were having a boy, and Ed was super excited. We decided together that when I had the baby, that we were going to have my parents and his mom in the delivery room with us. It was a decision that we kind of came up with together, and a decision that I will never regret making. It was the most amazing experience probably that I've had to date. Shortly after his first birthday is when Ed's mom suddenly passed away.
Me and my mom had a great relationship. Unfortunately, lost her suddenly in 2008 to a massive heart attack. She was only 55, and that really affected me. Around that same time, I started developing a bad problem with my leg, where the blood in some of the veins flow backwards and causes clotting and bruising and things like that. And it progressively got worse as I got older. You know, I've seen many doctors, had many surgeries on it, and eventually I started getting prescribed prescription pain medicine. And at one point I was prescribed 3 Oxycontin 20s a day and 3 Opanatins a day for pain. And, you know, I stayed a wrestling fan, stayed watching, and as my son got older, you know, he was there with me. He began watching it too, and he gained a love for it, and you know, it was great. But it was just hanging out on Monday nights watching wrestling, and as he got older, and it was just a weekly thing that we did to bond. And you know, he had every single the wrestling action figures growing up, and always had the wrestling rings, and you know, he started going to shows with me and things like that. And I think, you know, wrestling was instilled in him at a younger age than it was me, you know, because I didn't start till I was 11 or 12, and he started, you know, at 3 or 4. So that was a neat thing we bonded over. 2013, the things started popping up. There were subscription businesses. There was like Loot Crate, which sent like sci-fi mystery subscription boxes, and you know, had sci-fi items in them, like little action figures and lanyards and pins and things like that in it. And you know, which is pretty cool. And we subscribed to it, and we were getting that for a few months. And my son asked me, because we were huge wrestling fans, Dad, is there a service like Loot Crate for wrestling? And I'm like, that's a great question. I don't know. And I looked into it, and there was nothing out there. And I was like, no, sorry, buddy, there isn't. And he was like, well, let's start our own. So I was like, okay, let me see what I could do. So I kind of dug into it. Came up with the name Wrestle Crate. The website was available. I bought the website, set a store up, and just jumped in with both feet. I didn't have any prior experiences running a business or anything like that. So it was all new to me. And you know, I reached out to some people, you know, some wrestlers, Abyss from Impact Wrestling. He actually lives in a local area I do, and I was able to get a hold of him and told him what I was doing. And you know, he was actually the first autograph in Wrestle Crate. You know, I met him at a copy store, and he had all of his pictures, and he gave them to me, and I paid him for them. And you know, I still talk to him today, so that's pretty cool. From there, I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. You know, I started kind of promoting on some wrestling boards and things like that on Twitter, and you know, tweeting some people that were into wrestling and things like that. And it started gaining some steam. And you know, before we even sent out a box, I had 100 subscribers, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. Now what do I put in the thing? So I had to, you know, we did the Abyss autograph, and actually for the first crate, I had to go to Toys R Us and buy out all their wrestling figures and put in the box, because I actually didn't have, you know, the time to get a hold of Mattel to buy them directly or anything like that. So I just had to buy them straight from Toys R Us and put them in a box. And so that was a pretty crazy experience, going to 3 or 4 Toys R Us's to find wrestling figures. But after the first one shipped out, you know, the word was kind of out in the wrestling world, and it just kind of blew up from there. You know, my son kind of came up with a great idea. He watched a bunch of these wrestling people that reviewed wrestling and played like 2K wrestling on their Xbox or PlayStation or whatever, and they had YouTube channels where it was nothing, they talked nothing but wrestling. So came up with the idea to get a hold of these guys and send them a free box every month and have them open on their channel, and you know, that would be, you know, advertising out to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, because these guys had hundreds of thousands of views on their YouTube page. So we did that with the second crate, and from then on it just grew by hundreds every single month, you know, until I think the peak I was shipping out 2,500 a month or something to that nature.
So my name's Joey Image. I am a retired professional wrestler. I wrestled for 15 years. I broke my neck and my spine. So when I first heard about WrestleCrate, I got really excited because I had gotten Loot Crate every month, and I had gotten like Nerd Block and Geek Box and all these 3 or 4 different monthly subscription boxes. And I had just not probably right at that time, but maybe a month or a couple months earlier, I had just started doing YouTube more heavily. So I was doing unboxing videos every month of all these different boxes, and then like, so I'm a big tech nerd. I mean, you can probably tell from all the junk behind me, all the collectibles and stuff. So I was doing tech reviews on YouTube. I was doing unboxings of a lot of different stuff, including all these monthly subscription boxes. So I got in on Loot Crate the second month because I wanted to watch other people's unboxing videos from the first month, just to see how, you know, what was in it, what it looked like, blah, blah, blah. So I watched the first month. I don't remember whose video I watched. This was years ago now. And I thought, well, that's awesome. I'm going to check that out. I'm going to get at least 1 month, you know, because it would be hopefully views for my YouTube channel, and it would just be cool to check out some merch that I hadn't seen before. And a lot of the boxes came with old back issues of magazines, which was also cool in my eyes. So I got the second, I started subscribing the second month, and I think the deal was like $30 a month was for the ultimate box, and if you paid ahead for 3 months, you got 1 month free, something like that. There was some kind of gimmick behind it. So that's what I did. I ended up getting the 3-month deal. And I loved it. I mean, I thought it was awesome. Everything, like I said, there was a lot of merch from like other parts of the world that I'd never seen before. Like those little, I don't know what you call them, but the big ones are called Wrestling Buddies. So there's little like plush, like stuffed animal, for lack of a better term, of wrestlers that I didn't even know had dolls or action figures. So I thought that was really cool. That made me think, wow, I could probably get my own stuff. But there were like 8x10s of people that I didn't even know were selling 8x10s, and like the one of the big things I liked about it was that Ed's box featured a lot of independent talent too. So there was a lot of 8x10 autographs that were independent. There were of independent guys. There was a lot of DVDs that were like Ring of Honor and you know, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and there was some like PWU, which I don't think was even around anymore. That was Pro Wrestling Unplugged. I don't think they were even around anymore when WrestleCrate started. But a lot of this stuff, I was like, this is amazing. There's a lot of independent stuff, and I'm an independent wrestler, so you know, I can kind of relate to all this. So anyway, long story short, I was doing the unboxings on YouTube for maybe 5 or 6 months, and I didn't know who Ed was. I didn't know who owned it or who ran it or anything. I just knew this was cool, and I liked it. So I got a Facebook inbox message from Ed one day, and again, at the time I didn't know who he was. So it just said, "Hi, my name is Ed." I'm paraphrasing. Obviously, I don't remember it word for word, but it was something like, "My name is Ed. I'm the guy that owns WrestleCrate. I appreciate your subscription, and I see your unboxings on YouTube every month. But unfortunately, I can't have you do these unboxings every month anymore." And then he paused, and I was on Facebook at the time. So this is a live conversation, a live chat. So after he said, I can't have you do these unboxings anymore, he paused. So then I'm like, oh, did I break a copyright? Like, you know, did I show something on camera that was copyrighted, or I don't know, did I say something that I shouldn't have said or whatever? I thought like, oh God, like this guy's gonna cancel my subscription to this cool new thing that I just discovered that I've been telling my friends about, you know, in the independent wrestling world, and I was bringing boxes to shows to show people what I got and stuff. So he paused, and then, I don't know, after like a minute or two of suspense, he said, for free. So basically it was, I can't have you doing these things for free. So I'm like, oh, is he gonna pay me to do this? Like, that's kind of weird because I'm already paying for the box. So basically the deal that he had in mind was he sends me the box for free. I continue to do the unboxings, and I think the actual terms, for lack of a better word, that we agreed to was I would have the video online within like 2 to 3 days.
My name's Terrence Guerin. I'm a professional wrestler, and I've been wrestling as Rhino for most of my career, and my career spans over 26 years. I was first put in touch with WrestleCrate in 2015 by a professional wrestler, Zach Gowen, and I'd actually phoned up Ed, and we discussed business. I contacted Ed on WrestleCrate and how it worked, and he explained the things to me and how they reach fans. So we discussed things, and it was something I wanted to be part of. As a wrestler, you can only sell one item at a time at the gimmick table, and the cool thing about WrestleCrate is they buy in bulk, and because they have so many subscribers, and your stuff gets out there all at once. With WrestleCrate, I remember the first time we did business, I signed 660 autograph 8x10s. And I'll never forget going into the print shop. They were printing them up, and I was signing them as they were coming off the printer. And it was really cool because they had a few extra, and I signed them in gold, kind of like the Willy Wonka, golden ticket. And I sent it to Ed, and he thought it was a great idea. But I'll never forget just sitting there for a few hours, and customers were coming in and looking at me, and I'm just signing them, and a couple people wanted an autograph for their grandkid or something, so I ended up buying a couple more and signing it for them. And it was a fun experience, something that I'll never forget. Working with WrestleCrate and Ed has always been a great experience. You look at all the superstars of wrestling that have been part of WrestleCrate, from Matt Hardy to Kurt Angle to, you name it, the Young Bucks. Men and women have jumped at the opportunity WrestleCrate has provided. And it's always, I've never heard anybody say they've had a bad working relationship with Ed and WrestleCrate. WrestleCrate provided a great opportunity to the wrestling fans, because normally people are in rural areas and they don't get out, and they can't get out to these shows, and there's not a lot of shows in certain parts of the country. So as a fan of professional wrestling, you get a great opportunity, and you don't know what's coming, which is great. So it's a mystery, and you open up, and the excitement, it's like Christmas every month. WrestleCrate really was a trailblazer. It was a concept that Ed put forward, and made it work, and it was very, very successful, not only for him but for the wrestling fans too.
My name is Kevin Kleinrock, and I am the president of Mask Republic. My company is pretty much the largest company when it comes to doing anything in Lucha Libre outside of Mexico. And while I don't remember the first time that Ed and I connected, the fact that we represent a lot of the top Lucha Libre talent for their officially licensed merchandise and products, I think is really how we connected, working to bring really cool Lucha Libre merchandise to Ed's Crate, which was a huge opportunity because it had a scale of distribution that nobody in the wrestling industry had done before, in creating a subscription box that more than a few people would have subscribed to. And so it was a great opportunity both for people like us who had product to distribute, and for the talent themselves who were looking for a way to sell merchandise in bulk. Yeah, I don't remember who reached out to whom first. But once we connected, we were in touch on a regular basis, kind of always looking for opportunities to kind of help each other out. And I was so impressed with the scale and size of what he was building, because nobody had done that before. And so it was a great opportunity. I'm sure, every now and then I come to him and offer him, hey, we're working with this person now. Do you see maybe doing something? And then every now and then he'd come to me about sourcing a particular type of item that he might want. And so we just kind of built our relationship and friendship from there. I really so first off, I had a ton of respect for Ed, because it was basically this, he just started this thing out of his house. And, Mass Republic, as much as we do and as big as we are, it's really just my business partner, Ruben Zamora, and I, and then project by project, we'll have, other people that work with us, but we're a very small business, smallest to small businesses, as, the corporate world would look at it. And so when I found out originally that it was, basically Ed started this out of his house, and his son was, helping him pack orders, basically, and I just had so much respect and admiration for that, being really, a DIY person and company like we are. And so immediately there was kind of a bond over that. And so, any little thing that we could do, even if it wasn't Lucha merchandise, but, helping connect him to somebody else, or, making introductions, we were always more than happy to do. And we really wanted to see the crate build, not both for personal reasons in terms of, the larger the crate got, the more opportunity that there would be for us, but also just because, I love those success stories of people having a passion for something, seeing that nobody is doing it, deciding to take the risk themselves and start something, and then having it, succeed, and, get to the point where I think arguably for him, it was just too big for one guy, to run. And, those aren't always bad stories. I think that when it came to putting product in the crate, there was a few different ideas for us. The first was, how do we help benefit the talent that we represent? How do we hook them up with, a sweet extra deal here or there? Because until the modern era of crates and print on demand, unless you were hustling merchandise at a show in person, there weren't really these opportunities. Yes, some people had, websites with mail order and things like that, but it was very uncommon for a wrestler in Mexico to be able to capitalize on a fan base outside of Mexico and really be able to drive revenue for themselves, unless it was at a live show in the US or Canada or UK or wherever. So we wanted to be able to hook up our talent with these opportunities. But beyond that, we always like getting creative. And when Master Republic started our merchandise kind of side of things a decade ago now, it was all t-shirt. It was like we were silk screening t-shirts and just distributing t-shirts. And so when we were able to expand, obviously kind of the next step with masks and officially licensed masks, because a lot of times not a lot of times, like 99% of the time, when you see a Lucha Libre mask out there, it's not official, it's not authorized. And even if it is kind of what we call a commercial grade mask that you would normally see outside an arena or something, those guys don't get a cut of it. So even though a lot of what we would purchase from Mexico and be able to distribute in a crate like Ed's, we were at least paying a royalty on that still to the wrestler, even if they weren't involved in the actual manufacturing or distribution. Even if the product itself wasn't officially licensed, we were making sure that they were getting some compensation for it when it was landing in a crate like Ed's. And so that was important for us. But then as we kind of tried to get more creative, whether it was plush keychains or pins that became super popular over the next few years, or even just kind of cool art on a sticker or something, we were always kind of trying to make people see that we were developing a cool brand and cool merchandising. So maybe if they liked one piece of our merchandising, they would go out and seek out some of the rest. The subscription services have become the norm. Everybody is doing them. There's literally, I would say, a marketing and business expert that I really look up to and follow kind of their model now. And they have 3 tentpoles to successful businesses in this era. And one of them is a subscription model and having a subscription model. And so I think, Ed was really ahead of the curve there in being able to capitalize on that. And as a fan, getting that crate was a great experience. And again, seeing kind of how he, the evolution of, even just the presentation of the package and what was going to be in it. I think, they learned a lot and were able to, grow in that relatively short period, if we think about it, that the crate was around and that he was behind it. But yeah, I think it was I think not just for myself, but for wrestling fans across the country or in the world, getting that monthly goodie box where, being a wrestling collector or a wrestling fan, it was never, unless we were going to a live event, there was never really a way to collect a whole bunch of merchandise at one time. It was, you went to Target and you got one action figure, or you went, to Hot Topic and you got one T-shirt or two or whatever. But there wasn't this curated, here's a little bit of something, a little bit of everything for you on your doorstep every month. And I think that was super, super enticing, because not only did it have that curation aspect of it, where somebody was sitting there and going, what is actually cool stuff and what's good stuff that we can send that people are going to want, but then to be able to have that all collected and just really dropped on your doorstep, and I remember the customer service side of running a crate's never the fun aspect of it, right? But you would see people getting upset over, oh, this person got this crate too. Where's my crate? And then the next day, oh, they're on the internet with, oh, here's my crate. Here's inside. And then there's people upset that the spoilers are posted. Oh, don't spoil what's in the crate. Let me get, So it just really changed. I really think that it had a big part in kind of the evolution of the culture of being a wrestling fan, merchandise collector, because nothing like that really existed before. I mean, maybe back in the day in the tape trading community, it was, oh, look at what tapes showed up today, and you're showing your VHS labels off on a message board or something. But I don't, other than maybe like a WWE package bundle. But I think again the blind box nature of a crate really kind of changed things. Because you really didn't know what you were getting. The goal was oftentimes, or most of the time, you wanted to make sure that customer was happy with what they got. I think WrestleCrate was really good at
that. With the problem with my leg, the doctor prescribed me 3 OxyContin 20s per day and 3 Opana 10s a day for years. And at the time in those years, you really don't think you're addicted, you think it's helping you, but as time went on, I noticed myself starting to abuse them, and I was running out early and then trying to come up with schemes to get my prescription refilled early, and those were some of the early signs that I really had a problem. It just progressively got worse. I began snorting them and abusing them that way, and by the time I wasn't getting them prescribed anymore, I was a full-blown addict on prescription pain medicine.
Our mom, who she had venous stasis ulcers, so he kind of inherited this issue with his legs. I think he was probably 16. He had his first surgery, had vein removal, and they just progressively got worse. Imagine being 16 years old and having these horrible, swollen legs, veins bulging out, varicose veins. I think it was traumatic to him, always having pain, I would say, since the age of 16, and having to deal with that. And of course, with pain comes the need for pain medicine. And over time, trying to manage that, you need more and more, which led to his issue that we were afraid was going to take him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that obviously it starts out like, I'm sure the majority of addicts start out like, they really needed it for a reason. And I think that Ed absolutely needed it because of his legs and things like that, but I think that he then became dependent on it because then it masked depression, then it masked, you know, the sadness that he was feeling.
From the loss of mom.
Yeah, like, so it just, it became his blanket that he couldn't kick.
It was a physical, started out as a physical crutch to kind of numb the pain, and then over time it becomes mental, and you need more and more. And you know, it was prescribed for a very long time. He smoked marijuana. They stopped prescribing it. Well, you're in pain. You need something to deal with it. You can't cold turkey stop prescribing. That just leads to more and more issues. So he started seeking it in other ways. And if you can't get what you want, you take what you can get. So that just continued to progress and spiral out of control. I mean, he became even more and more distant from us.
You know, it was easier for me to go to the streets to buy prescription pain medicine than it was, you know, going through the steps of going to doctor's appointments and doing this and doing that, and, you know, just not having to worry that. I was like, I got money to blow. I'll just go get them from the streets. And, you know, back then I think I was paying $30 for a 30 milligram Percocet, you know, and at the height of my addiction, I was probably doing 10 to 15 of those a day, you know, and they're anywhere from $30 to $40, and, you know, you're doing $600 a day almost, and drugs, and, you know, things are bound to get pretty bad, you know, eventually. So, you know, when I got to that point, that's when things really started to fall apart. I was more focused on keeping myself high and keeping myself good than I was the crate. In my mind, I've been making this good money for, you know, 2-3 years now, and I will always be there, and, you know, I always have that to fall back on. So I found myself taking more and more money that should have went back into the business and using it for my addiction. And the quality of the crate started getting worse. Feedback was getting bad, and I just started going into a hole. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to respond to criticism. I didn't want to fix it. And I just almost kind of became a recluse, where in the beginning of the crate, I was out there doing contests and giveaways on video and reaching out to fans and all this stuff. But as my addiction progressively got worse, I just became a recluse, and I didn't interact with fans at all. I didn't do those giveaways, and it wasn't like the product was there to back it up, because the product was getting worse as well, you know. And before I know it, I'm in a hole, and, you know, how do I fix this? I owe people money, and you know, I already spent money that went back into the crate. So once again, I got to put out another subpar crate, which people are going to hate. And then, you know, you start losing subscribers, and, you know, towards the end, I seen the end coming, and, you know, I didn't want to know what to do. So, you know, I reached out to some people to possibly be interested in buying it. And that's what I eventually did, was sell it, all because of my addiction and me not being able to control it, and me having the spending habits I did on my addiction, and the feedback, and not knowing how to react to that feedback and make it better, because I couldn't make it better because I was, you know, an addict. And, you know, when you're an addict, you don't think right. All you think about is yourself and keeping yourself good. You know, the relationship with my family was being strained, and everything. I was just basically didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't want to do anything. I was just out running and getting my pills every day and coming home, and then just, you know, going into a room and staying by myself, not talking to anybody, not trying to fix things. It was it's a horrible time in my life. The pills were getting more expensive, and I had less money. but I already created a habit where I was spending, you know, $400, $500, $600 a day on pain pills, and I had to find a way to keep that going. And so, you know, I took jobs as a bartender, and, you know, and robbed Peter to pay Paul and everything, and sold stuff I had, and whatever I needed to do to stay high. And you know, the relationship with my wife and son had become very strained at that point. You know, the electric was getting turned off, the water was getting turned off, and, you know, and I was always making excuses for why we didn't have money and this and that. And you know, some days we went a week without having running water in the house, all because of my addiction. And, you know, I went from living in a $250,000 house, running a $1 million business, to, you know, a 2-bedroom apartment with the water off within a year or two. Things just crumbled like that because of my addiction and the money I had spent on the addiction and the things I had done. And it was awful. It was a low point. Towards the end of 2019, my wife informed me that her and my son were going to move out. They had enough and told me I needed to get my life together, and that things weren't over, but I needed to make a change. And that really hit me hard. They left in January of 2020. I got really bad. Used a lot of Percocet and Xanax together, and I was nodding out driving. I crashed my car I don't know how many times because I nodded out, just being completely messed up because I didn't want to face the fact that my addiction had broke my family up now. You know, I lost my business, I destroyed my family, and I was totally at rock bottom, you know, and I almost didn't care. You know, I was suicidal, you know, doing whatever drugs I could get my hands on, and it was awful. It was a low point in my life, and you know, I'm lucky to be alive right now. There's many a times I should have overdosed. You know, I'd wake up in the morning, you know, my knees bloody from falling, passed out on the floor, pills spread across the ground, and not having any clue what happened. You know, I would take whatever 300 milligrams of Percocet and, you know, 3 or 4 Xanax bars a night and just be totally out of my mind and not remember a thing. And you know, using my rent money to get that stuff. And, you know, after they left, I'd been threatened to be evicted, the electric got turned off, the water was off, and things like that. And I was at a low point in my life. And my immediate family, my sisters, they came to me and said, enough's enough. It's time for you to straighten up. And I'm forever grateful for that, for them snatching me up and saying, we're going to save you, we're going to fix you. And I can't, I don't know. Without them, I wouldn't be here today. They really saved my life.
He called us one morning and said, can you meet me? We both met with him. He's like, wrote a bad check, you know, to 2 people. I'm afraid, you know, this is going to lead to legal action. I'm like, and she asked, you know, do you have a problem? No. What'd he say? I'm not trying to heroin or anything, like, in an attempt not to lie to us, to divert from what the problem was. So I'm like, I can't let him get in trouble, you know, for this. It's serious. So I went down to the bank, and I said, these people you owe money, you're not giving them cash, because they could then say you didn't pay them back. So I went down and got 2 money orders and paid them. And, you know, then I worried about how the money order was going to be cashed because I didn't do it right. You know, after the fact, I went home, so I called the bank. Like, hey, you know, I did this money order. Is it going to be a problem for this person to cash in? And they're like, well, your brother just came in to try to cash it. So it didn't go to the person. So Of course, my mind is going. And then, gosh, it was probably a couple months after that. Holidays. Of course, he's going to be around his family for holidays. He nodding out. We're like, standing up, falling asleep, dropping his phone. Like, we're talking, there's something going on. But you can only do so much if they're not ready to open up and discuss it and deal with it themselves. I mean, we can't deal with it for them. So it came a point where he told Erica, I want my sisters to come over, I'm gonna tell them. So we went and he told us, and I said, well, we've gotta do something. We have to get you in treatment. We have connections just being in the field that we're in. So we got him in like next day,
That was the next day.
To a treatment center. He was really proud of himself and, started treatment, but appointment number 2, I take him. We were adamant that we had to take him to his appointments just to make sure he's going and doing what he's supposed to be doing. Appointment number 2, I drop him off. Just let me know when you're finished. Check in with him. Hey, when do you need me to pick you up? Oh, my buddy picked me up. Okay. Well, how are you going to get your prescription because you need your ID to do that? Oh, my buddy did it. I'm like, something's going on. He didn't go.
At this point, he was avoiding me because he can't lie to me. So he avoids so he doesn't lie. And at that point, that's when I told Grace, he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. It was an outpatient program. I said he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. And
yeah. Then we went to dinner with my dad. I think it was Erica, Eden, my granddaughter, my dad and his wife. I don't think you were with us.
I was out of town.
And he's at the end of the table, nodding out. Just kept nodding out. I kept telling him, like, wipe your mouth. I'm like, we're all looking at each other, like shaking our heads. And like, Ed, he's like, what? He doesn't know. He doesn't realize that this is occurring. He thinks he's being totally normal. So the next day I sent him a text and said, it was quite obvious, called him out. We need to get you help, which totally upset him. And he sent a group text to the family, which worried us. It seemed kind of, I'm sorry, I'm a burden kind of thing, which freaked us all out. And then, we talked through it. And I said, you have to go to inpatient treatment. He said, give me a day. I'm like, no, you need to go. I think we did end up letting him go like 2 days later. I went and picked him up and with Erica, his wife, and we took him to the inpatient treatment center. He signed himself in. I think at first during a period of time when they were going through the interview process, he was hoping that he would not be kept. And you have to have a reason to be kept. You have to be a threat to yourself or, which I pulled that text out of my back pocket. So you basically have to stay or you're going to be put on a mandatory hold. So he did stay. It was a very difficult time, limited visitation there. I think twice a week he could have visitors, which I'm not really sure he wanted going through withdrawal. You feel terrible, but it was important for us to be present. Every visitation, somebody was there. He would spend some time with us and say, I want to go back to my room. While he was there, he would just stay in his room. He wasn't participating in group meetings, all the things that are part of therapy. We made sure he got into outpatient treatment.
The next day he went and got.
Yeah. But we didn't want him to leave the facility without a Vivitrol shot, is what his treatment is. He's was so afraid of withdrawal. That was his biggest fear of, I don't want to go because I'm afraid of all these symptoms and how I'm going to feel through this withdrawal. You don't understand. And no, we don't. I mean, we don't understand. And I'm sure it's incredibly painful and mentally traumatic. But you've got to do this. And just the thought of being on the withdrawal and knowing if you do something, guess what? You're gonna go through these things that you fear. And I think he knows that he needs that. Just to keep him straight.
After he got out of rehab, he stayed with one of his sisters. And me and our son remained at my parents' house. And he started to get individual therapy for himself. I got individual therapy for myself, and we did counseling for my son. And then we also started to do therapy as a couple. We were apart for a good 6 months. And it just so happened that during all this, when he got out of rehab, is when everything started with COVID. Being with my parents at the time, we had people in the house who were immune compromised. So it was extremely important for us to quarantine, and it was extremely important for us to make sure that nobody in our household got COVID. So it made it very, very difficult with him getting out of rehab and being able to see myself and our son. And I know that that was the only thing that he was looking forward to once he got out. So it kind of made his recovery that much harder, because he was already, trying to stay on the right path and going to his doctor's appointments and going to his counseling appointments, and all he wanted to do was just be able to be with us and see us and visit us, and we couldn't. And so we finally got to the point where we were able to visit again and be with him and that sort of thing, which made it so much better and so much easier for him and for all of us, really. And then he moved in with his other sister as well. And we started doing our therapy together, and we started trying to make a plan as to what we wanted our expectations and our goals to be, and when we were going to move back out together. So it was a total of about 6 months that we were apart as a family. And then finally, in August, we were able to go ahead and find a new place and be able to move back in together. And I feel like things are just in such a better place, even though we lost so much and we went through everything that we went through. I feel like whatever the future holds for us is so much better and so much brighter than what it would have been if we wouldn't have made the changes that we did when we did. Things are just in such a better place, even though we lost so much and we went through everything that we went through. I feel like whatever the future holds for us is so much better and so much brighter than what it would have been if we wouldn't have made the changes that we did when we did. Ed's an amazing person. He would do anything for anybody, and that's just one of the things that I really love about him. And even though Wrestle Crate didn't go as we had planned, I'm sure that he'll be on his next adventure really, really soon.
the future's wide open for me. I mean, there's so many different avenues I could take. So I just don't know what I want to do yet. You know, I'm just going to kind of go into the world with an open mind and a clear mind and see what comes my way. I think I'm pretty easy to talk to. If anybody's struggling with addiction or with recovery or with sexual abuse, feel free to reach out to me. I can be found easily on social media, Facebook, Twitter, all that, and everything will be confidential. But I know how it is needing to talk to somebody and open up about those things and how they affected you. And, you know, I buried things for a long time, and I wish, you know, more people to reach out to me and say, you know, Ed, what's wrong? You know, and I just wish I had someone to talk to. So, I mean, sometimes it's good to talk to a complete stranger, and, you know, I'm wide open. If you need somebody to talk to, you can reach out to me, or I could steer you in the right direction, or people you can talk to, but get help. It will do your life well, and you'll be so much more happier and live such a better life, being clean and sober. I mean, living, you know, an addiction is not a way to live your life. It's really not. It was all fun and games and everything, but it's no way to live. And I just hope people find the strength to get the help they need.